This is the candidate forum for the Mountain View Whisman School District trustees, and we're going to wait one more minute to give more people a chance to join. I can see participants are joining now. Great. Okay, well, we only have an hour, so let's go ahead and get started on time. I want to welcome our candidates and our audience members to the Mountain View Whisman School District Candidate Forum. I am Julie Cates, a member of the League of Women Voters of Los Altos Mountain View. Now, before we actually get into the forum, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. As this forum, we only have an hour, and due to the nature of a webinar, we are not able to provide technical assistance to attendees. All of our league candidate forums will be and are being recorded. Now, the recorded version will be available the day after the live forum, and the link of the recorded version will be available on our league's election page, which you can find at LWVLAMV.org. And we make those recorded webinars available on our YouTube channel. Now, during the forum, as we're in webinar mode, audience members will be able to see the moderators, myself, candidates, and the timer application, which I'll discuss. So audience members are not shown. Now, audience members, you can submit a question through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And as the question is addressed by our backroom staff, its answer will be visible to all attendees. Now, for this webinar, the chat function will not be available. And so during this forum's registration process, attendees were able to submit questions that they wanted candidates to respond to. And we've reviewed all those questions as we prepared what we were going to ask the candidates this evening. Now, due to time constraints, we will not be able to accept additional questions from the audience. We'll get through as much as we can of the already submitted questions. Now, I again want to introduce myself, Julie Cates from the League of Women Voters, Los Altos Mountain View. And I'd like to remind you all that the League of Women Voters is a nonprofit organization of women and men. The League promotes informed, active participation in government. We do not support, oppose, or evaluate political candidates or parties. We do take positions on political issues, however, but only after a careful study of the issue. Now, the League invites anyone who is interested in supporting democracy and local government, come join us, please do. Now, here is the format we're going to use for tonight's forum. Each candidate will kick it off with a 60-second opening statement. And then we're going to ask candidates to respond to questions. The questions have been selected to be relevant to all candidates and to provide useful information to the audience about issues that relate to the Mountain View Whisman School District. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to each question. Now, after these question rounds, the candidates will each have 60 seconds to make a closing statement. Now, I want to point out something that you're going to see on your screen. During this forum, we're using an electronic timer, and that's going to display each candidate's remaining time to respond to a question. Now, the timer function will also randomly shuffle the speaker order of candidates. And the timer displays the name of the current speaker. And at the bottom of the timer window is the name of the next speaker, meaning the speaker who's on deck. So with league forums, we always ask our candidates to abide by the following. Time limits. When the timer line turns red, I will say thank you, and then please complete your current sentence and end. Respect. Candidates will not interrupt each other. Fairness. Candidate marketing materials will not be visible on the candidate's screen. So now I am very pleased to introduce the 5 candidates who are running for the 3 open seats for the Mountain View Whisman School Board. Now these seats are all up for 4-year terms. So candidate, when I introduce you, please raise your hand so everyone knows who you are. Laura Ramirez Berman. Great. Laura Blakely. Christopher Chang. Patrick Nejbala. And Manny Velasco. Thank you, candidates. We're now ready to begin. So keep your eye on the timer. It'll display the name of the current and next speaker. So our first respondent, okay, Laura Blakely. At this time, you may begin your 1-minute opening statement.
Thank you. As the only incumbent running for re-election, I'm happy to be here tonight. From kindergarten through 12th grade, my sons attended Landals, Graham, and Mountain View High, where I spent many years volunteering on PTA boards, site councils, school foundations, parcel tax and bond campaigns, and as a Share Shoreline advocate. I decided to run in 2016 to help restore professionalism, collaboration, and respect on what was at the time a dysfunctional board. My day job as a transactional lawyer in Mountain View has given me deep experience in governance and finance. I also serve on the CHAC board and am involved with the chamber. Guided by the district's strategic plan, I'm hoping to carry on the good work we've undertaken during my term to improve learning outcomes for all students and promote stability for our district. I will work hard to ensure that all of our kids, regardless of income, language, ethnicity, learning differences, immigration status, race, or gender identity, have access to a great public education and stay engaged in school.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be from Laura Ramirez Berman.
Thank you. Thank you to the League and to the viewers at home. My name is Laura Ramirez Berman. I believe I'm uniquely qualified to serve on this board because I have 20 years of experience in public education working in East Palo Alto as a principal, a teacher, and a staff developer. And under my leadership, we closed the achievement gap and we were a top-ranked school in the state among similar schools. I'm the proud mother of 2 daughters in 2nd and 4th grade at Gabriela Mistral. I've also been an active community leader serving as a school site council president and in the district on the Parcel Tax Oversight Committee and the Measure T bond campaign. If elected, my focus will be on advancing equity and closing the achievement gap. I will work to increase engagement and rigor for all students, attract, develop, and retain diverse teachers and administrators, support mental health and social emotional learning, and foster a strong, inclusive community. With my professional and personal background, I can make a positive impact on the work of our district and on the lives of children across our community.
Thank you. Opening statement from Christopher Chang.
Hello, my name is Christopher Chang, and I've been a school teacher for the last 16 years. I started teaching in New York City as a public school teacher, taught locally in public schools in Cupertino, and also many of the local independent schools. And my career, it's always been a pursuit to look for best practices. And in this pursuit, I've really discovered that you really need a balance in education. You can't focus too much on test scores. You need to focus on, you also need to introduce things like project-based learning. You need to have a strong social emotional program as a foundation because learning is all about relationships. And I'm running this time. I was on the board between 2012 and 2015. and served in that role the same way I do as a teacher. I served with love and kindness and really high expectations. And in those high expectations, I believe we need to introduce balance, and that balance is focusing more on things like projects, things like social emotional learning, and things like relationship building. And look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Opening statement from Manny Velasco.
Hello, my name is Manny Velasco. After nearly 15 years of service with the school district, I've decided to run for the board. Having spent my first 10 years in special education in charge of making real-time modifications, I was able to see our district's educational opportunities from the perspective of students. Later, in my tenure as a school and community engagement facilitator, where I managed a large county grant, I was able to expand that perspective to include the wants and needs of families. I developed and ran family programming, including the PK program and the partnership with Foothill College, where every parent who attended my workshop became college students free of cost. I developed English and computer literacy classes for parents and helped create the district's Parent U. I also forged the partnership with CSA to bring the first food pantry into the district. I helped create and run the mental health collaborative at every school I worked at so that I could assure that every student who needed mental health services was afforded that opportunity. Having spent a lot of time traveling in Mexico, including studying there for a year, I'm confident in saying I'm not only completely bilingual, but bicultural as well. I could go on and on about my commitment to the students, my commitment to this community, and how my unique perspectives
Thank you,
bring a lot of
Manny.
value.
And now we have opening statement from Patrick Neshlaba.
Hi, I'm Patrick Neshlaba, proud parent of a 6th grader at Crittenden Middle School and a freshman at Los Altos High School. My wife and I have had kids in the district for the last 9 years. I served for 2 years as the school site council chair at Montaloma Elementary, served for 3 years on the board and district facilities committees for Measure G, and have engaged in leadership roles every single year we've had kids in our district, from helping run walk-a-thons with our PTA to contributing to district strategy and boundary discussions to campaigning for Measure T. I'm a technology innovator, strategist, project manager, and business operations nut, and in my free time, I'm a musician. My priorities are to ensure better academic outcomes for all children, deliver outstanding school facilities, and promote excellence in teaching and district leadership. As a strong consensus builder, data wonk, facilities expert, and the only candidate with a kid in our middle schools, it would be an honor to be able to contribute this unique perspective if elected. I'm looking forward to answering your questions tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. So now we're going to begin the question rounds. I'm going to present the questions that were developed in part with inputs from the audience who registered. Candidates, you will each have 60 seconds to respond to each question. The timer has done its shuffle, and we're going to kick this question off with Patrick. The question is, what experience, strength, and qualities will contribute to your effectiveness as a Mountain View Whisman School District Board member? And candidates, at any time you need me to repeat the question, just let me know.
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things I heard from other board members of the community when I was working on Measure G and other projects was the soft skills that I brought to discussions. We had a lot of disparate views and priorities and differences of opinion across the district. And my role on those teams was building consensus, finding common ground, listening to what people said, and figuring out a path that would actually allow us to move forward at a time when we were deadlocked. And that's a quality I really try to bring to every team I'm a part of, whether it's work or school or anything in life. And this board, I feel like, needs that, right? We've seen what a dysfunctional board looks like in this district, with people not getting along and stuff like that. And having someone on the board with that soft skills, I think, is super important to helping us move forward. Additionally, as I said in my statement, I am a data nut, I'm a data guy, I'm an engineer, I love to solve problems, and I think that's a helpful perspective given the challenges we need to go and address in this district. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the question one more time, and then Laura Blakely is up. So what experience, strength, and qualities will contribute to your effectiveness as a Mountain View Whisman School District Board member? Laura.
Thank you. I think my years of leadership on various roles, both in the schools and outside the schools in the city, would contribute toward my continued effectiveness on the school board. I already went over the various, like I was president of Mountain View Educational Foundation. I was one of the 6 parents that negotiated with the city that helped to bring about the Share Shoreline Agreement, bringing millions of tax dollars into our district. Also, my day job as a transactional lawyer, I've developed skills, negotiating skills. That's what I do for a living. So I have a way to get people to agree. And I think since I came on the board, it was really quite dysfunctional before my time. And the board has shown that we can get along and we can reach agreement. We don't agree on everything always, but we do it when we do disagree, we would disagree respectfully, and we don't attack each other, and we build consensus to support the accomplishments that we do make. Thank you.
Let's hear from Laura Ramirez Berman.
Hi there. I think my largest contribution to this board is my ability to build community and connect with members of our community, being Spanish-speaking, first generation Latina. And more importantly, it's the experience that I have from working in East Palo Alto. And like I said, I have the unique experience of having really done the work to close the achievement gap. So I think that going into the board, I know what questions to ask when information is presented to us that will make the biggest impact on our students and for our schools. And in my school, we had such a terrific community where parents would show up for our meetings. We'd have standing room only. So I know how to get buy-in from our families, and I'm excited to see the participation of our community members rise in our school and bringing those partnerships in, because I know, we have parents that really want to come along with us and see their children succeed, and we need to provide entry points for them to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay. And next we've got Manny Velasco.
Thank you. So as far as my experience I'm homegrown. I'm here born and raised in Mountain View. 5 generations of my family have lived in Mountain View now. I've worked at the school district for almost half my life, for 15 years. And with that came a lot of experience working with students, with every single staff in the school district. I've worked at every single school except for Vargas. When we talk about mental health, I was the one that was running the mental health collaboratives with the school district. I was the one doing suicide assessments for our students at Graham Middle School. I'm involved with the county. The data collection that I've created for the district has actually been adopted by a lot of the county agencies and now used across the board. So as far as data, I know it. I've created it for the district. I appreciate the work that the district does with the data. But like I said, I was the union president, so I know all the collective bargaining agreement front to back. I've read the teachers agreement, so I bring a lot of experience.
Thank you, Manny. Christopher Chang.
What I bring into this is experience of teaching remotely since March. Teaching remotely today, we just began to start planning our reopening at my own school, and I piloted a reopening this summer at my school, teaching in person. So there's a lot of experiences crisis is bringing to bear that we need to have some practical experience to know when policy disconnects with what really would work. One of the things that I've learned in 16 years of teaching is that a lot of times policymakers, they may not have a sense of when to pause and go back to community and talk to your teachers and talk to your parents. And one of the things I like to do is bring the experience I had as being Teacher of the Year twice, of being the founding director to the Conlab School's middle school program. I'm currently teaching at Key School and previously taught at Hillbrook and Sacred Heart, and bring progressive practices to balance this idea that we can't just be like a charter school in Mountain View. We can't focus on just testing to bridge the achievement gap. We need to focus on what kids need in the future. And that means bringing a progressive balance to our current policies.
Thank you. Our second question. The widening student achievement gap is a long-time Mountain View Whisman School District concern, and now exacerbated by COVID-19. So what solutions can you suggest to deal with the achievement gap? We're going to pick right back up with Christopher Chang to address this question.
Such an important question. There's so many facets. There's not just one solution. Most immediately, we need to make sure that we are fully solve the digital divide, that students not only have hotspot internet, but enough internet so they can actually access their classes. This also means bringing in our high needs students back on campus, because some of the kids, what's happening right now, remote learning, is in education. When this crisis is over, we do need to also look at year-round schooling, bringing summer school and after-school programs. A lot of things that like more affluent families pay for the kids to get. We need to give those kids experiences to bridge the achievement gap. We need to give kids like these relevant experiences, you know. So when one family pays for the child to go to robotics or a theater camp, we need to look at how do we provide those same experiences to students who can't afford to do that, because the future isn't going. These kids need to see themselves in the future. And that means like seeing that the excitement of learning, the excitement of engineering, and all the subjects that make Mountain View such a vibrant city, so they can see themselves in those career paths. So I think part of that is really just bringing more than just testing.
Thank you. Patrick.
Yeah, so such an important question. I mean, I think that I'm talking about three things. First of all, we need to recognize that COVID is creating a very long-term impact for our students, and just be very clear-eyed that this next board is going to be dealing with recovering this gap for years. And we need to be clear-eyed there will be a long period of investment needed and focus in order to solve the problem. Second, we need to recognize what's working in our district. You know, at Montaloma, we had some wonderful success from the RTI program implemented to help raise our overall English scores, bring English language learners across the gap. And we saw that when we really focused on resourcing that problem and resourcing that program, we made really good progress. And I think we can double down on things like that across the district. Finally, you know, I think there's an opportunity to just raise the bar a little bit and just expect more about from all of our kids. You know, a little bit more reading, a little bit more math, a little bit more hoarding. Because I do believe that students, ultimately, when you challenge them, they can rise to that challenge. I think we have a great opportunity to do that in our district.
Great. Laura Ramirez Berman.
Thank you. So as I mentioned before, the school that I led really was making an impact on the achievement gap. We actually worked really hard to close the gap. We would get phone calls from our, other districts close by asking exactly how we did that. And it's like Patrick said, we know from research that students will meet the expectations that are set for them, and that's what we work towards. So we really supported our teachers with best teaching practices to support our students, and that's really focusing in on differentiation and a rigorous use of data to really establish what students really need, social emotional learning, culturally responsive practices. And something else that was really important to us was building a strong community, not just with our administration and our teachers, but also with our parents, because parents really needed to be a part of the conversation, and we needed to make sure they had the resources and the training that they need to help their children at home. And we had a very strong RTI program as well, where we didn't wait for kids to fail. We started as soon as we could in kindergarten to make sure we were filling those gaps. Thank you.
Okay. Manny.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely agree that now with the COVID situation, we are going to be involved in some adjustments as far as making sure we contain that gap. I think very importantly is going to make sure that we make sure our families have all the resources, the community resources they need. I think a lot of times we fail to see that when a student comes to school, there are a lot of factors around their life that contribute to what they're able to learn. What they're willing to learn, and I think we need to address that. I know the school district has the capacity to help families in mental health aspects, to help students with mental health, and I think that's going to be vital. And it's vital to bring those students onto campus as soon as possible to provide that in-person service. I also believe that the RTI program is doing a good job as far as catching some of the kids up. I would also like to address the fact that I think that the students who are highly achieving should also have other programs where they can develop those skills that they need to progress in their lives as well.
And we'll wrap up this question with Laura Blakely.
Thank you. The other candidates have touched on a number of important factors, such as making sure kids are fed, making sure we have mental health resources. If you have mental health troubles or you're hungry, you're not going to learn, that they have access to equipment with laptops and such. But the board's role in this is to set the policy, to identify the what. And so this board, the board that I've served on, told the district, we need to work on closing the achievement gap. We want every kid to be reclassified, who's a language learner, to be reclassified as English only by 5th grade. And we want every kid to make at least 1 year's growth in 1 year. The kids who fall behind more need to make more to catch up. And so that's the board's role, is to say the what, the policy, not the how. The board that I have served on has done this, and we've had fabulous results. Scores at Castro and Thayer-Koff have increased by 23 to 28 points. We're not there yet. There's a lot of work to do, but we're on the right track.
Thank you, Laura. For our third question, and it seems relevant to comments that have been made, how will you work productively with fellow board members, even when you disagree on certain school district policies and issues? And our first respondent is Manny Velasco.
So I think, my service and record of the district shows that I've been able to work with groups in all facets of education. My job has taken me into the county office. I've given presentations in front of the county board of supervisors. I've worked closely with city council members to advise them on matters relating to students. I'm very close with the police department. And these are just examples. I mean, I've sat on school site councils, I've ran ELAC meetings, I've sat in DLAC meetings. So there's definitely no group that I haven't been a part of and been able to work well with. I've had a lot of support from parents that are involved with SELPA. And I just know how to bring people together. I mean, my community events would bring numbers that nobody thought possible at the district. Sometimes I'd run workshops that would have 75 families when other schools, other districts are running them with 5 families. So I know how to bring people together.
I'm going to go ahead and repeat the question, and then Christopher is going to respond. How will you work productively with fellow board members, even when you disagree on certain school district policies and issues?
As a foundation, I believe you need to work with love and kindness to everybody that's in the room. That's your fellow trustees. That's parents who come to the school district with problems. I served on that board that was a very challenging board between 2012 and 2015. I thought about that question a lot since leaving that board. One of the biggest things I take away from that experience is realizing that a board needs time to talk to each other. So a lot of problems happen when a board just doesn't have enough time to process through all the differences that people have. With the Brown Act, I think board members don't talk to each other outside. So one of the biggest lessons that a board president can do, though any board member can suggest this, is schedule enough meetings. So if the community member has a problem, if a fellow trustee has an issue, and clearly if there's an issue, it means that people aren't feeling heard and understood, it really at the first level is calling enough meetings so that people can hear each other. It doesn't mean you'll agree, but if you just give people airtime, a lot of things can get resolved just by doing that alone.
Next up, Laura Ramirez Berman.
Well, I think if we are relentlessly focused on data, and we're relentlessly focused on what the best is, what the best for students is, and looking at student outcomes, I think that if we can stay focused to what our goals are, I would expect that we won't have a lot of drama. And I think that we need people who are willing to have conversations and have open dialogue and consider other people's ideas and listen with compassion. We all have pretty strong opinions, and we all have our own experiences. And I think that working together, we can really make an impact on the outcomes, but we really need to stay completely focused on what's best for students and let that be our North Star.
Thank you. Laura Blakely.
Laura Berman just said it. Students are the top priority. The focus has to be on the students and focus on student outcomes. And I agree with her that when that happens, the disagreements kind of fall away. We won't agree on everything. There's ways to get along, keep it light, keep it humorous. I was just talking about how the board is supposed to focus on policy and the what. We all occasionally get in the weeds and try to work on how we do things, which educational protocol we should be using. My board now, we remind each other, we're like, weeds, we're in the weeds, keep it high. And we need to do that. We communicate clearly, we listen to each other. Listening is huge. And there are opportunities to communicate, whether it's, you know, you don't have to be talking about board stuff. You can build relationships. I had everybody over for dinner and repeatedly do that. That helps. And I think not giving up, not quitting when the going gets tough is very important, and just listening and keeping a sense of humor.
And Patrick will close out this question round.
Yeah, you know, Laura talked about the importance of relationships. I think listening is number one when trying to resolve differences, and focus on facts and data, because facts and data tend to not be debatable things. And we find consensus, right? And where we're deadlocked, when you're deadlocked on something, reach out to the community. We need to appreciate our community is a tremendous resource that point us in a direction, because oftentimes the board can be down a rabbit hole, and the community can say, whoa, 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 whoa. And then we say, you know, okay, we got it. Use the community as a resource. And when we make a decision, respect the vote. You know, when the board makes a call, move on to the next thing. We don't need to air things out in public forums or on Facebook or other places and complain about stuff once the decision is made. And then finally, you know, when there's disagreements, I mean, people work through disagreements. And, you know, like Laura Blakely said, you know, don't give up, right? Keep at it. Don't walk away from the table. We can solve this. We all care about making our schools better. We can work together. Thanks.
We're going to move on then to the next question. And this is sort of a different perspective now. In the next 10 years, it is possible that the new North Bayshore development will bring a large increase in students to the school district. So what are the challenges you see, and how can they be met over that horizon, 10-year horizon? And we're going to kick this off with Laura Ramirez-Berman.
Yes, we do expect a growth in our student population by about 2,400 students. So that would look like 2 elementary schools and potentially a middle school. And what we need to do is we need to keep in mind that schools are the anchor of our community. They're the anchor of a thriving community, and we need to treat a school as such. So it's something, you know, when we plan for developing a portion of a section of of Mountain View, we need to make sure that schools are not an afterthought. They have to be the first thing that we're thinking about when we go in to plan these neighborhoods. So we need to build strong relationships with our city council and the folks over in the city who are going to make sure, because we're going to let them know what our needs are after we listen to our community members and we think about what's best for students, that we get our needs met, that we have land for our school and all the resources that need to come along with that we have the funds to sustain it.
Thank you. Manny. And again, the question is, looking at a 10-year horizon of potential large growth in students, how should the district prepare?
So I think it's important for us to make timely decisions, because I think it's important for us to stay ahead of the curve, and that will allow us to avoid having overcrowded classrooms, which I think would be one of the biggest challenges that could arise from this. Is if we impede progress, if we don't progress at a steady rate, then we might end up with a few too many classrooms with too many students. So I think that we need to take that into account, make timely decisions. I think we definitely need community buy-in, and it's very important for us when we're building new schools to make sure we build equitable schools. So these schools should give each student the same experience that they would have at another school, another school in the district. So I want to make sure that whatever building we build has the capacity for the kids that we need, and it's equitable for all students.
Okay, Laura Blakely, you'll be up next. Unmute you.
Couldn't find the mute button. There we go. Thank you. Yes, the school district is, if all the building that's been approved in the East Whisman and North Bayshore precise plans gets built, our school district's population will increase by about 50%. So we will need more schools, and that means we need more money and more land. And the money is really key, because land is like $10 to $15 million and more per acre right now. So we need to work on relationships to help find us. We've been working with the city for years, but the city has its hands tied to some degree because of state statutes that cap what they can do at the developer fees. Other things we can do is work with developers to get voluntary contributions. We could do a voter approved bond, but I do not recommend that. I don't want to vote to pay for kids who don't live here today. We could do transfer of development rights with the city, which they've offered. The shoreline tax reserves may also be a source of revenue. And we may have to seek approval of community facilities district, something like a Mello-Roos bond, but we need a plan now.
Thank you. Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, so first off, we need to recalibrate kind of post-COVID on the pace and timing of growth. We have a lot of large employers in this area that are kind of rethinking the importance of local workforces right now. And the conclusions they reach are going to tell us whether we need to grow quickly or grow even faster, right? Near term, we need to make sure we use what we have. We do have a lot of capacity in the district north of El Camino, and the cheapest new school is the one you don't need to build, right? When you finally do need to build, and we are going to need to build some new schools, you know, location, 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 secure land soon, work with the city, partner, figure out the right location, and get community input. You know, if you think about adding like 3 new elementary schools potentially, there might be an opportunity for a choice program, there might be opportunity for neighborhood programs. Community should have a significant amount of input in that decision. And then at that point, then we start asking the financial questions. Then we start looking at money and teeing up how exactly we're going to go and get this thing done.
Christopher.
Oh, there are so many great things that Patrick said that about. There's right now with COVID-19, we don't really know what North Bayshore would look like. It's dark outside, but I live across the street from the housing project that's supposed to be built. And we have schools right now in Monteloma that's nearly half building capacity and under enrollment. There's a lot of things we can do in the short term. But the thing I'm really interested in focusing on is looking at the tax revenue. When we're talking about North Bayshore is our one remaining area where the district doesn't get regular property tax. It's in a special shoreline district, and we renegotiate each year on the funding there. And then that cuts the district short about $6 million. That's almost equal to, that's actually equal to 2 parcel taxes. So, you know, I really don't know if we'll need that many schools. When I served on the board previously, we've seen many demographic reports go all over the place. But if we can create a stable tax structure so that we get our fair share and the developers don't get cuts in their fees, we can guarantee we'll be ready for what comes.
So for our next question, very appropriate for a school district trustee candidate. So you're going for a seat that's good for 4 years. What changes would you like to see in the school district by the end of your 4-year term? So what's your vision in terms of what the school district looks like at the end of your 4-year term? And again, our first respondent is Laura Ramirez Berman.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Pie in the sky. I'd love to see the resources that our students need at every school site, because every school site is unique. And support for our teachers. And I'd love to see teachers that are staying in our schools. I'd also like to see relationships with teacher prep programs so that we have a pipeline of teachers coming in to sustain that growth and fill teachers, great teachers, into our new schools. I'd like to know that that we planned appropriately for the construction and the boom in our population that's coming. Want to know that we've secured that land. And I'd love to know that we don't have any wait lists left for kids that need mental health support, that they have all the mental health support that they need. That's just the beginning of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Patrick. So what changes to the school district would you like to see by the end of your 4-year term?
Well, so first of all, I'd love for us to be able to look back on Measure T and be done with it on time and on budget, and in a way that allows us to do even more things that we couldn't get to in Measure G. We had to make some painful decisions about things we wouldn't do. We have a great opportunity to wisely invest the taxpayers' money on that. On academics, I'd like to be able to look back and say that, you know, we've raised the bar, you know, not only in closing the achievement gap, but even giving our highest achievers in our district more of an opportunity to excel in school, and in a way that's really equitable across all of the schools in our district. And the other thing I'd point to, maybe that hasn't been mentioned yet, I really want to be able to look back at our teaching staff and say that not only do we already have the greatest teaching staff in the area, but we are rewarding them in a way that will attract top new talent that makes teaching an incredibly attractive profession for people that are looking to establish themselves in the field, where they can come to Mountain View Whisman and feel respected and rewarded.
Laura Blakely.
So first of all, I would love to see the 144 units of affordable housing for teacher and staff that's slated for 77 West Middlefield be built and fully occupied by people paying discounted rent. I'd love to see continued progress with the achievement gap, more kids being reclassified before 5th grade and being proficient in their standards by 5th grade so that they can hit middle school running and be successful in high school. I would love to see more social and emotional learning practices embedded in our learning, and see kids that have their mental health resources that are what they need. I'd like to see better inclusion and equity and culturally responsive practices. We've started that. We have a new equity coach and I'm excited about that. And I would love to see the district having made some strides within a sustainability policy. This world, you know, we've got global warming, it's here to stay, and I'd like to do our bit to contribute to a better earth for all of us.
Christopher Chang.
In 4 years, I would love to see social emotional learning be taught about and treated the same way we treat any core curriculum, which means right now every school site has some really wonderful programs, but it's different every school right now. I'd love to see a district-wide pilot where we test out the best SEL programs and we introduce it in the way that we treat math or other subjects, because those two are equally important. I would also like to see that we talk about data differently. Now, I believe that right now it's right that we hold high standards for our children, but then when all we do is look at test scores, it creates perverse incentives for teachers to really downplay things like projects and hands-on experiences and things that actually aren't zero-sum games when it comes to what's good for achieving kids and what's good for struggling kids. When you're doing a project, that's naturally differentiated. Yet if we're just doing remediation or RTI, we're instantly putting everything into a zero-sum resource where we're focusing on one child and not another. So I'd like us to look at data differently so that we're not in that situation.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to drill down a little bit deeper into one of the key stakeholders of the district. The school board has many passionate stakeholders, but particularly the teachers.
Manny, I don't think Manny got to go.
Manny, I'm sorry, Manny, please. I got ahead of myself. Manny, please.
Yeah, so I definitely, I like the focus that's going on with the district as far as preschool. I would like to keep that focus going. And I think we need to take the data that we are gathering from, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and apply that into the preschool population. Because, if we never close that loop, then we're not using the data correctly to inform us on future generations. So I'd like to see that improve. I definitely like to see our EL students reclassify at a higher level. I think the possibilities are there. I think if we use our school and community engagement facilitators, our at-risk coordinators, and our EL department, I think we would be able to up that at least a few percentage points in the next 4 years. I would like to make sure that we secure all the land that we're going to need going forward to build more schools. I'd also like to make sure we have a premier special ed program. I know that there's a lot of special ed IAs who would love to see a pipeline to go from being an IA to being a teacher in special education. I think that's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Manny. Okay, so the question that I had got into a little bit too early was, if a school board has many passionate stakeholders, particularly teachers, and how would you involve teachers in the district level decision-making process? And we're going to kick this off with Christopher Chang.
When it comes to the board, I think one of the most important things they do is to examine the process on who did you bring in at the beginning and who's there at the middle and who's there at the end. So in many ways, I think that's true for both teachers and for parents. So, lots of times when a decision gets to the board, And if somebody's coming to complain, so if it's a group of teachers coming to complain or parents coming to complain, there was something wrong with the process. So I think that, anytime when that happens, part of the board is to have the district go, okay, what went wrong with that? And what can we do differently when next time we do a curriculum pilot, or next time we do a negotiation? How can we take what we learned and make sure that everyone's included in the whole process? Because I fear sometimes that we think that collaboration is just communication and just like convincing people, and it's not. It's really about making sure that they're there from the start, especially around COVID-19. A lot of teachers want to feel like they're there from the start and they're with the planning instead of being told what's going to happen to them from the people in the board office or district office.
Okay, Patrick.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, involve teachers early, bring the teacher perspective in early in any decision process, and just, like I mentioned earlier, like listen. That's the first thing we need to do when we're thinking about resolving things. Teachers have an incredibly unique perspective that they bring to all of this. They are the front line in seeing all of our kids, right? The people I talk to the most in the district right now as a parent are teachers, and they are fantastic. You involve them early, you give feedback, they listen to feedback, and it works great. You don't have to write a letter to the board. Like you solve it. The second thing I call, I think this is really important for the board though. I think the board needs to make sure they respect the role of the superintendent in negotiating teams when it comes to working with teachers, right? Because the board is not the lead negotiator going and working a deal or something like that. That's the job of the superintendent. And the board needs to, at some point, exercise some discipline, step back and realize that we are paying somebody to do that job for us. There's an important level of restraint there that I think boards also need to roll on. Thanks.
Manny.
So I think as far as, dealing with the teachers, it's really about trust. I know a lot of the teachers in the district have felt that sometimes there's a lack of communication, and when there's a lack of communication, then there's a lack of trust. So I think the most important role that we can play is make sure that we communicate the decisions that are being made. As was said before, the superintendent is the one who will set the parameters of how he achieves the goals that we set forth. And I know that the superintendent now does include staff, does include teachers, parents, community stakeholders. So I think the district is doing a good job. I think what we need to work on more is the communication piece to make sure that all the stakeholders know how their participation is being used, how their ideas are communicated to all the other stakeholders, and how those ideas can form a concrete plan.
Thank you. Laura Ramirez Berman.
Well, as a former teacher and a teacher developer and an administrator, I have a lot of experience with building buy-in with teachers. And before I even go on, I have to spend a few seconds just thanking our teachers. We love you so much, and we see how hard you're working and just really appreciate you. And I actually, that is part of it. It's just showing our teachers a lot of compassion. This is really hard work, and we really need to value their opinion and their experiences. And they know our students best sometimes. I think it was Manny who said, like, our teachers are on the front lines, and they know so much about our students, and they know so much about our curriculum. We really need to bring them along in the decisions that we make as a school site and as a district. And I think it's just being really clear on what our vision is and making sure we have that buy-in, and that we're all on the same page, and that we're working together, and that we really value them.
Laura Blakely.
Thank you. So I agree with a lot of what the other candidates have said. We need to involve teachers in the process, and I think we are doing that. Yeah, I'm sure there's some more, more that we could do, but especially when it came to developing the reopening plan and the pandemic plans, Dr. Rudolph was excellent about forming all different kinds of groups of stakeholders and getting input. And I've heard from teachers that historically didn't think the district trusted them, that they come to me and they're like, wow, things have really changed. And I think it's they realize that they're being taken seriously, that their input matters, and we need to listen, and we need to be transparent about the input. And the other thing is we need to support them. Teachers have told me right now they don't even want to sign up for site council because they're working 150% during this pandemic. And so we're all doing that right now, but I'd like to support teachers both, economically and emotionally. and give them the room to feel confident so that they will feel comfortable contributing in this process.
Thank you. Well, the time is really moving along. We have time for one more question before closing statements. So we're going to open this up a little bit. As a final question, what is the question you wish we had asked you? And how would you answer it? What is the question you wish we had asked you? How would you answer it? We're going to kick that off with Manny Velasco.
Wow, that's quite a question. So I think maybe the question I wish had been asked would be surrounding our more, our homeless population, our McKinney-Vento students, our most at-risk population, because I think that we do a good job as a district addressing some of those needs, but I think that we don't do a good job always addressing their situation as it regards to their academic studies. So I think sometimes teachers are unaware of what's going on, other staff is unaware, there's more pressure put on those kids. It's kind of like they're set up for failure. When I think if we could do a little bit more staff development, do a little bit more around mental health, we would be able to secure greater opportunities for those kids to help them realize a greater future. And I think that we can do that.
Thank you. Okay, Laura Ramirez Berman, what is the question you wish you were asked tonight, and how would you have answered it?
I think it's a little bit along the lines of what Manny was saying with our at-risk population, but specifically I was thinking of a question related to special education. I know that our numbers are really high, and there's a high number of students that are Latino that are overrepresented in our special education numbers. And it could be that at times that we see special education as an opportunity to give somebody more resources, but there's a disconnect there because it's not necessarily what that student needs. I really wanted to talk.
I know. Did we lose
about supporting our students earlier and digging a little, and can you hear me? And digging a little, can you hear me? Digging a little deeper into our RTI program and supporting our kids and catching them before they're failing in 3rd and 4th grade. I think we need to make sure we have the right supports, the right program, we're following the right data, and more importantly, that we're really connecting with parents and doing the parent workshops and letting them know what they can do at home.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Next, Patrick.
Yeah, I wish we had gotten a question about special needs and our thoughts on what it is for special needs students. I mean, we have 11 or 12% of our district is special needs students. And I've talked to so many parents on IEPs or 504 plans over the years. And unfortunately, I have yet to meet a single one who's been 100% satisfied with their experience. That tells you there's an opportunity. But more recently, my nephew was diagnosed with autism and sensory disorder, and I've come to really much more deeply understand the challenges that parents of special needs students have. And there are good days and there are tough days, and we try to love our kids the best we can through all of it. And I think the district can continue to raise its bar in this area, right? Make sure we can solve the right problems, make sure that we're looking at data to determine how we're doing. And then just make sure that we're appreciating that special needs students are part of the neurodiversity that makes our district great. And it's a great opportunity to bring them along.
Christopher.
A question I would have loved to have been asked is why it's important for a district to look at best practices in other schools, and why, it's not just looking at schools that have our same demographics, it's looking at, so I've taught both from inner city to now teaching independent schools, and what's a magical classroom for a child is not that different between the two. And we have a superintendent who has charter school experience, and as a board, we talk a lot about charter school metrics, but there's a lot that independent schools or a lot of progressive public schools can offer. So I really wish that that we look at other schools with that eagerness and not with an excuses of they're different, but like, whoa, what works over there? And actually, Mountain View is such a diverse school district that something that's working in Los Altos actually probably works for, actually not probably, does work for a lot of our parents here, just like something that's working in East Palo Alto is needed for what we have here. So I would love for us as a board and district to really embrace looking at what's outside of our city and trying to develop policy. Thank you.
Laura Blakely.
Thank you. Just to answer what Christopher Chang just said briefly, the best practices, just generically, that's the how. The board needs to set the policy of the what, and then the district can figure out how to implement that what, whether it's looking at best practices or other research. As far as the question that I wish that I had been asked, I wish that you'd asked how the district has done in terms of addressing the coronavirus issues. I believe the district has done very well in terms of collaboration with teachers, with the unions, with staff, focus groups, parent outreach, been wonderful there. We also got in and purchased PPE very early. We installed better air filters very early, thanks in part to the Measure T funding that we had to do that. Thank you all those of you who worked on Measure T, Patrick and Laura. And I like this slow phased rollout approach. We could reopen, but we're going to take it slow and learn as we go along. And I think that is what makes parents and families and teachers and staff feel safe.
Thank you. Well, and that concludes our question rounds. And now we're going to move.
The opportunity to be here this evening, and for everybody who's listening, I really appreciate your taking the time to get educated about our school district, which is so near and dear to my heart. I'm proud of the accomplishments the school board has made during my term. We've made great progress closing the achievement gap. We forged a unique deal with the city and a developer to build 144 units of affordable housing for our teachers and staff. They're now among the most highly paid in the county, which is wonderful. I like supporting our teachers and staff and compensating them. Annual teacher retention has increased by over 20%. All this while our budget has remained balanced. We have a very healthy reserve even 3 years out. Every middle schooler during non-pandemic times now has the equity every middle schooler gets an elective. They don't all just have to take remedial classes. Everybody gets an elective. We've offered high quality distance learning until kids and teachers can safely return to the classroom. I'll work hard to ensure our schools provide an environment where all kids can be successful and enjoy learning. You can learn more about me at www.lauraforschoolboard.net. Thank you.
Patrick Neshlaba.
Great. So Mountain View should really be proud to have such an accomplished set of candidates for school board, and it's really an honor to be on the ballot with this group. At the end of the day, you're choosing 3 of us to serve Mountain View for the next 4 years. Our schools have made progress in the last 5 years, but we have some tough problems to solve ahead of us, and your questions tonight pointed towards many of them. As we do that, I feel strongly that our board needs to be able to work together as a team, each trustee bringing a unique perspective along with commitment and integrity as we listen with empathy to what our community is telling us. So as you consider your choices, I hope you're asking yourselves, who are the right 3 people to elect to this team? I hope my track record of service to this district, my unique experience as a district middle school parent, and the unique skills I can bring to ensure that words like on time, on budget, and data driven have greater meaning in how we run our schools will figure highly in your decision. I'm an engineer. I love to solve problems, and I promise you 4 full years of problem solving if elected. Many thanks to League of Women Voters. Everybody stay healthy and have a great evening.
And Laura Ramirez Berman.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. So I lived in this community for 13 years, and I've spent a lot of time in classrooms and community meetings and with parents and families. And I get asked for advice all of the time. Questions like, how can I help my daughter at home? How can I better communicate with my child's teacher? Or my child is struggling. Should I request that my child get tested? And I have a point of view that's really valuable to them because I know what to look for and what questions to ask. Those conversations and my own observations have prompted me to ask this really important question. How can I do the most good with what I know and my experience? And serving on the Mountain View board is a big part of that answer. With my professional experience and being the daughter of immigrants and bilingual and the mother of 2 children in our district, I feel uniquely equipped to serve on this board and serve our parents and our children. We'll always make sure to have the interests of our students and have the best interests of our students and have that drive our work. I would be honored to have your support and your votes. Please go to lauraramirezberman.com to learn more about me. Thank you.
Manny Velasco.
Hello, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for the forum tonight, and thank you to everybody who has been sitting here listening to all of this wonderful information given by all these candidates. You know, for the past 15 years, I've been working with the most fragile population in the Mountain View Whisman School District. When you see these data points going up, I was on the front line of those data points. When you're reading this information, I was the one who was setting up the platforms to gather that data and inputting that data piece by piece. So when you see these numbers, a lot of these numbers that have to do with the EL students, with our McKinney-Vento students, I was the architect of a lot of those data systems. So I definitely know how to read the data, how to analyze the data, how to see the data and translate that into what real life is for people. You know, I've worked with our special ed students, I've worked with our most fragile groups, and I've also worked with the highest performing students. And I have given, you know, half my life I've dedicated to the students of Mountain View, and I'd like to continue that service.
Thank you. Christopher Chang.
I hope that the voters will look at the candidates and ask the question of how will we as a school district make sure that our children are ready for their future? And the future right now is going to require kids to continue to learn for the rest of their lives. It's going to require them to be creative. It's going to require the kids to know and regulate their emotions and know what it means to be happy and to see a path for them to be prosperous in our own city where there's so many amazing jobs, but are we giving them the real skills to get there? And I worry that when we focus on kind of providing them lessons that aren't necessarily relevant to what's going on, whether it be culturally or hands-on, you know, if they're just doing too much remediation or review on their computers instead of building things and making things. We have this one-on-one laptop program that's such an opportunity out of this crisis. I hope that we as a community will use these tools to help our kids begin to really see themselves in the future and have a future-ready curriculum. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Well, thank you, candidates, for serving our community by running for school board and in participating in tonight's forum. And I'd also like to thank the volunteers who have made this forum possible. The League of Women Voters believes that a democratic government depends upon the informed and active participation of its citizens. And we hope that the insights that audience members gain from this forum will help as they plan their vote. And for this November's election, remember, all registered voters will receive their mail-in ballots starting October 5th. And at that time, you can also start viewing your ballot online at the Voters Edge website, www.votersedge.org. And the Voters Edge website provides information not only about your candidates, but the ballot initiatives, and it also provides good background information such as, you know, who the major donors are for various candidates and initiatives. So be sure to visit our League of Women Voters Los Altos Mountain View elections webpage. That's where you're going to find the list of election events, and you're going to see the links to recordings for the candidate forums that have already taken place. So tonight's forum will be listed, the recording will be available and listed starting tomorrow, and it would be available to see on YouTube. So do plan to complete your ballot and vote early. And remember, you can deposit your signed ballot in a ballot drop box or the post office mailbox. We all count on your vote, your voice to make our democracy work. And with that, that concludes our Mountain View Whisman School District Board Candidates Forum. Thank you and good night.